Hi everyone, my name is Funman. I'm your lecturer for CM3361, Environmental Chemistry, and today is the first lecture on the introductions to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the 2013 Agenda for the Sustainable Development Goal was adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015. It provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. And at its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we call it SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, both developed and developing countries, in a global partnership. And these countries recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with the strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. So how did we get here? The SDGs really builds on decades of work by countries and the UN, and in June 1992, at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, there were more than 178 countries that adopted the Agenda 21. There was a comprehensive plan of action to build a global partnership for sustainable development to improve human lives and protect the environment. And then the member states, unanimously adopted the Millennium Declaration and the Millennium Summit in September 2000 at the United Nations headquarters in New York. And the summit led to the elaboration of 8 Millennium Development Goals, we call them MDGs, to reduce extreme poverty by 2050. And subsequently, over the next few years, there were many summits, primarily the Johannesburg Declaration of the Sustainable Development and the Plan of Implementations during the World Summit on Sustainable Development. And there was another one, again in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the UN Conference on Sustainable Development. We call them the Rio +20. And so, in January 2015, the General Assembly began the negotiation process on the post-2015 development agenda. And the process culminated in the subsequent adoption of the 2030 Agenda for SD, with the 17 SDGs at its core, at the United Sustainable Development Summit in September 2015. So therefore, this year was a landmark year for the multilateralism and also international policy shaping because of the adoption of several major agreements. Some of them, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, that was in particular very famous. I still recall we had a CM3361 that time. So here's a recap of the 17 SDGs. Good to know what they represent and which one concerns our module in fact. Today, the division of the SDG, there's one division at the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, we call them like UNDESA, that provides substantial support and capacity building for the SDGs and their related thematic issues, including water, energy, climate, oceans, urbanizations, transport, science and technology, etc. Now, for CM3361, we are going to focus on 4 environmental SDGs. Goal number 6, goal number 13, goal number 14, and 15. So pay attention especially to these 4 SDGs in CM3361. Goal number 6, clean water and sanitation. And the goal is really to ensure the access to safe water resources and sanitation for all. Now, if this picture here is very clear that 71% of the Earth's surface are covered in water. But you know that the majority of this water are salt water. They are not potable. What we want is to know the amount of fresh water on Earth. There's only a meager 2.5%. And among these, only 1% of it is available because some others are in different form of water, like ice. We can't eat ice. We get brain freeze. Now here's the issue, 2.2 billion populations in the world lack safely managed drinking water. If you don't have clean water, I think people are not going to live very long. So in Singapore, what are the ways that we can sustain our national pipeline? What are the 4 national taps, or potentially is there a 5th tap? how can we ensure there's a sustainable water sources for Singapore at least? When we start to think for Singapore and of course overseas, or back in your own country. What are the various methods of water treatment and disinfection? Can we recycle water? What is more than new water? What is more than desalination? How does that work? The other part is about 673 million of people, they practice open defecation. Now this is not a concern in Singapore. There's no open defecation. In fact, there was a small incident some years ago, but the police came and it was off, so it's a crime. Right. How does open defecation impact both human and aquatic life? And you might think that this is only an issue in developing countries, but mind you, that's not true. Because in some parts in America, when they have homeless people, right, in the States, in fact in California, San Francisco, you can see open defecation. And these are not from the pets or the dogs, but from humans. Now this is an issue. How does it affect the livelihood of the residents? Right. Hope we don't see this as a problem in Singapore, but we can provide some potential solutions for urban states. Next SDG, goal number 13, climate action. We have to take urgent action to tackle climate change and its impact. You see this chart here from 1880 all the way to last year, 2021. How has the global temperature increased? Over the years, if we look at it 50 years down the road, it might be even considered exponentially this way. I hope not. Right? So the increment is significant. Our thermometer doesn't lie. You can have better technology methods to create thermometer, but the global temperature is increasing. That means we have to stop because there's no upper limit. About 39 million of the people are affected by erratic weather pattern. This could include typhoon, right, droughts, flooding. So what are some of the observable global phenomena changes due to climate change? And we know that there are still a group of people who think that climate change is natural, it's not caused by human beings, it's not caused by our human actions. Right? But the science tells us that we humans have a part to play that cause climate change. And therefore, what can we do so that we can lower the global increase in temperature and keep it not as 3 degrees Celsius, right? Either slowing down or can we even cool our Earth down? What are the mechanisms and chemicals contribute to climate change? Next goal number 14, life below water, is to conserve and sustainably use the world's ocean, seas, and marine resources. That was 33 years ago when we had the disaster, one of the worst environmental disaster, called the tanker Exxon Valdez, that crashed into a reef near Alaska, Prince William Sound. And although human lives won't be affected by the biodiversities, you see all the animals, 28 species of them, plants and marine habitats were affected. You notice until today, right, there were some of these species, but the herring, the killer whale and the pigeons, they are not recovering. Why are we concerned about life below water? Life below water because this water, it has a high heat capacity, it does absorb a lot of heat, and there's 90% of excess heat on the world's climate is absorbed by the ocean. So when the ocean gets heated up, how does the habitat of these creatures change? Right. For us, when we feel hotter, yeah, we can still have the air condition, we have the fan, we can go to the mall, we can do other things to cool ourselves down. But what about other living creatures below water? Right? How do they react to the heat wave and when it poses a threat to the marine ecosystem? The next part is also a very salient issue. 9 million metric tons of this plastic enters the ocean annually, and we are a big cause of it because naturally plastic doesn't exist. It's created by humans, by us, by the industry. And what concerns us a lot really is the microplastic. How does it travel down, right? Because how much can you filter this microplastic? And does it enter the food chain? If it does, the food chain feeds back to us. We're going to consume creatures. Next goal, UN SDG 15, life on land is to sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. So we talk about land below water when we have oil spills, we have loss in habitats, right? On land it's the same. The difference is the mechanism. You look at this map here. We have colored in red here about the forest land masses that's lost in 21st century, either by deforestation, by human behavior, or by the climate. And in the green zones are the ones that's what we find in our real forests, and you know that it's going to deplete. And forests are very hard to grow back when you consider forest, so you have to be very attentive to our action. Some numbers for you there. 3.2 billion of the people's well-being are impacted by land degradations. Singapore doesn't have a wide agriculture industry, but that's not the same for most other countries. Where do we get the food from? Right? We don't grow in Singapore. Our neighboring countries overseas here, perhaps Ukraine, Russia, US, China, India, many other countries in Africa, they do grow a lot of crops to sustain the food chain, the global food chain. So how does the soil in particular contribute to agriculture and food security? And we face food security concern in the past few years, exacerbated by the COVID. Recall the times when we couldn't buy some vegetables, there wasn't any chicken in Singapore, where in the supermarket, the groceries, people have to do a bit of rationing. You limit each customer to buy only 2 packets of certain goods. 1 million animal and plant species threatened with extinction if we are not careful about our forest, if we let it degrade and decrease. So how do trace metals impact the soil quality and contribute to land desertification? Can we put more nutrients, fertilizers? Can we conserve our forest? So with that, I would like you to see how these 4 goals, especially from the UN SDGs, connects with the main topics in CM2261. We have element cycle, lithosphere, hydrosphere, waste management, food chain, atmosphere, climate change, sampling. Sampling is about environmental sampling. We have 2 parts. One is the soil sampling, the other part is the air sampling. So I hope this slide gives you an overview about how the SDG connects with CM2261 in environmental chemistry. And I will talk about more about these individual UN SDG goals in the next lecture. Cheers.